I wrote probably thousands of papers which I summarized into this text. I try to understand what is the meaning of living amongst others from an ethical perspective, and I was speaking on Jewish identity politics. Why did I pick on Jewish identity politics? Because I understand it, because I was raised in the Jewish state as a Jew, and I definitely regard for a very long time Israel as the biggest threat to world peace. But this week, especially, some of you would agree with me that it's not just Israel, it is also AIPAC.
We leave all options on the table, and containment is definitely not an option.
I try to understand what is it in this identity that became so powerful, why it is so westernized and empirical, and why it is hardly ethical and hardly immersed in any empathic thinking. I try to understand what is it about you Americans that allow, why Americans allow such a lobby dominate your foreign policy. And I came up with some devastating answers. My writing are concerned with Jewishness, with this unique exceptionalist ideology that is based on Jewish chosenness. Now it is very interesting because everything that I say about Israel and Jewish identity politics can be applied to America. America is an exceptionalist place.
Since that date, in 1945, the United States of America has bombed the following countries: China in 45 to 46, Korea in 50 to 53, China in 50 to 53, Guatemala in 54, Indonesia in 58, Cuba 59-60, Guatemala 60, Congo 1964, Peru 1965, Laos to 64 to 73, Vietnam 61 to 73, Cambodia 69 to 70, Guatemala 67 to 69, Grenada 83, Libya 86, El Salvador throughout the 80s, Nicaragua throughout the 80s, Panama 89, Iraq 91 to the present, Sudan 98, Afghanistan 98, Yugoslavia 99, and then Afghanistan and Iraq again. It's well between 12 and 15 million people directly killed by U.S. bombing, and they have the audacity to talk about terrorism?
Everything that Israeli does, you do. And here there is something even slightly more worrying, that everything that Israel does to the Palestinians, you are actually doing now to your own people. And this is why this society is so segregated, and this is why you need 30,000 drones in the air. This is a very good question. Your society is in a pretty grave state.
I and my administration have made the security of Israel a priority. It's why we've increased cooperation between our militaries to unprecedented levels.
If I were a Jew, I'd be a Zionist. I am a Zionist. You don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist.
But there is something that you can clearly do in spite of the fact that this window is narrowing rapidly. I think that what makes America into a very interesting place is the First Amendment. This is probably the greatest thing you have, and I'm pretty sure that most of you realize that there is not much left of your liberties. There is a serious assault on your freedom. However, we are still here and we are still talking freely. As it happened, this is your only chance. Now, how did they actually jeopardize your freedom? How do they do it? Do they do it through laws? Do they tell you, is there a law that stops you from talking about 9/11? Not yet. Is there a law that stops you from talking about AIPAC or about Jewish power? No, not necessarily. Because what they did very successfully is pepper us with a mechanism that made us self-censoring ourselves. Most of us know what we are allowed to talk about and what we should never mention. Now, this is very clever, but it is also very dangerous to those lobbies that promote self-censorship. Let's talk about the Jewish lobby. By the way, you're not even allowed to say Jewish lobby. Here I'm saying it, Jewish lobby, low camera, Jewish lobby. So this is a kind of a liberating experience. Jewish lobby. Yeah, you have to learn how to pronounce the J. Because it is a Jewish lobby. It's not an Israeli lobby. And it doesn't even necessarily represent the Israeli interests. The Jewish lobby is a lobby run by some very rich American Jews. It is not a representative of the Jewish community. It wasn't elected to represent the Jewish community, but it is a lobby that represents some very rich Jews that are basically looking after their own interest, own business interest, and Israel is just an instrument for them. We have to learn to criticize, to get over this political correctness issue, to really celebrate our freedoms. Why? Not just because we want to be free for real, because we are humanists, and because it is also very important that we do it for the Jews, for our Jewish brothers. Why? Because it is very clear that the Jewish American community cannot restrain AIPAC. And they definitely didn't manage to restrain their AIPACs in Weimar Republic in 1920s. The situation in Germany, in America today, is not different from the situation in late 1920s Germany. They bring a disaster, a total disaster on themselves. If in 2003 it was clear to some of us that the Jewish lobby and some Zionists within the administration were pushing for the war against Iraq because Iraq was the last enemy of the Jewish state in the region, it was so clear to us that it wasn't about WMD, it wasn't about oil. Check out the prices of oil so you know that I'm right. It was an attempt to destroy Iraq, which was basically strategically, it was a very big mistake, because now Iran is the biggest power in the region. By the way, why was it a mistake? Because in Israel, you have some generals. You have some people who grow up like 30 years in the intelligence services before they become decision makers. You even have maybe one or two clever politicians. I'm not so sure about it in Israel. But in AIPAC, what the people in AIPAC know about intelligence, about tactical, about strategic thinking. In order to be in AIPAC, you know, you have to be a rich Jew. Means that you can basically sell toilet seats. And if you really want to get your toilet seats to be sold nationwide, so you get to the higher league of AIPAC, and then you may be able to talk to the Congress. And the reason that you get into these dinners is because you say that you support Israel. I would be very insulted if I were American. Just to tell them that he may not start a third world war on their behalf. If American people cannot say, enough is enough, we want to talk about it, we don't like it, you have a big problem. But it's down to you. Now everybody wants to talk. Yeah. Okay, yeah. This is very simple to explain. Basically, every American political institute is competing on Israeli support. Why does it happen? It's very simple. 3 decades ago, the Israelis realized, or the lobby or the supporters, that American politicians are much cheaper than tanks. So they don't have to buy tanks anymore because we have your sons and daughters fighting our wars. Israel made false flag attacks into an art form. Israeli history is saturated with false flag attack. The case of Israelis operating in Egypt. It was an affair in the 1950s. Israelis planting bombs, not Israelis, sorry, Egyptian Jews planting, but operating within the Mossad, with the Mossad, planting bombs in American cinemas in Cairo, trying to create the impression of anti-American feeling and so on. Israelis are very proud of being so clever. They like it. It's not a problem. It means what is the motto? What is the motto of the Mossad? Do you know?
By way of deception, thou shalt do war.
By way of deception. Can you think of any other official, worldwide official institution that is proudly claiming to work by way of deception? I'm sure that the CIA is doing it, but they wouldn't put it on them as a motto. This is the motto of.
No, the CIA says, "Seek ye the truth, and the truth shall make ye free." That's
exactly. There's definitely something in the Jewish culture and the way the Jews interpret, the Israelis interpret their ethical code or the moral of the Bible. And by the way, by way of deception, it's taken from the Bible.